O'Reilly Factor, the most powerful name in news. Fox News Channel.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly. In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, as almost everybody knows, Ronald Reagan was a movie star in the 1940s and 50s. He was featured in 59 films and then went on to be president of the union representing actors. From there, he left into national politics. Joining us now from Los Angeles is Mickey Rooney, one of America's legendary actors. And on the phone from Carmel, California, Doris Day, who starred in 2 movies with Ronald Reagan. The Winning Team and Storm Warning, right, Miss Day? Tell us about him.
Yes, Bill. Well, I can only tell you that he was wonderful. He was a marvelous actor. He was a gentleman. We had laughs because he's terribly funny. And we just got along great. And but I only made 2 films with him, which was, too bad.
Now, a lot of these guys, back when you were making films, were kind of philanderers, runarounds, crazy nutcases. You know what I'm talking about, Doris. You've seen enough of them. But Reagan was totally opposite that?
Oh, yeah, totally. Well, I don't know about all the philanderers, but he certainly wasn't one. Mm-hmm. Not at all. He was a gentleman at all times.
Did you ever talk politics with him? Were you aware of his interest in that?
No, I didn't, and I was not interested in politics then at all. But I knew that, most of the people at the studio were Democrats, and I knew that he was then.
Yeah, at that time he was a Democrat, and then he came over in 1962 and changed to a Republican. Now, Mr. Rooney, you met Ronald Reagan when you were 15 years old, and that sounds like young, but you were already a huge star at 15 years old. People remember the Andy Hardy movies and Boys Town and all of that. How did you meet him, and what were your impressions of him?
We were, I was staying with my mother at the Montecito Apartments and getting ready to do A Midsummer Night's Dream. We were rehearsing at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where Jan and I are going to do our show, the 9th through the 12th, and my wife Jan and I are going to be there. And I came down and I saw this wonderful-looking gentleman, very nice, and he said to me, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Mickey Rooney." Who are you? He says, "I'm Ronald Reagan." I said, "I'm very happy to know you, Mr. Reagan." And at that time, there was a dog that came out of the out onto the street in front of the apartment house, and he got hit. He wasn't killed, thank God. And I grabbed him and I brought him back in. I said, "We've got to get him to a veterinarian right away." And he said, "Mickey, you're a real humanitarian." And that's the way we started. Of course, he invited me over to Warner Brothers, and we had lunch, and I met a lot of wonderful people there. And
so he was almost like a mentor to you.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a mentor, but he was a friend. And but he could have been a mentor to anybody because he was one of the great Americans and a great actor. He did 50 pictures, I believe. Mm-hmm. And
were you aware of his political interests? Were you aware that he, was interested in the world around him to a much greater extent than just being casual?
No, I wasn't. We never talked politics, but everyone knew that he had it in him to do anything he wanted to do. He was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, and he did a lot of things which we're very happy for. And
you stayed in touch with him all these years.
Well, not quite in touch. We've been traveling around our nation doing our show, but the fact is, just hearing about his passing away brought our nation and brought my wife Jan and I to tears. We thought the world of him, and Nancy. I met his lovely wife Nancy before they were married at Warner Brothers, and it was a thrilling time.
Okay,
I'll tell you that.
The show you're referring to is a musical act, and you are going to do a tribute to Ronald Reagan at the Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles from the 9th to the 12th of this month. Now, Doris Day, you have another story about a dog as well. Didn't you get a call from the White House about a dog?
Oh, that's funny. Well, I was reading Parade magazine, and there was a story in there about Ronnie and the fact that Ronnie and Nancy had received a present, a big dog. I believe it was a Bouvier de Flandre, a big black dog. And I thought that was a beautiful dog. And anyway, I find out later that they had taken him to Santa Barbara and they left him at the ranch. Well, I thought, that's terrible to do that. I think that's very sad for that dog. And I gave an interview. I was doing an interview a little later, and I talked about that. And I said, I'm surprised that he would do that he would send his dog to Santa Barbara. And because I know he loves dogs. And anyway, a few days later, not a few days, but a month or so later, that came out, and the Parade magazine story came out. And I was feeding the dogs over in my dog kitchen, and one of the girls said to me, Doris, it's the White House calling. The phone rang. And I said, which White House? What are you talking about? And she said, it's the White House. Get on the phone. So I went to the phone and I said, yes, who is this? Who's putting me on? And I hear a voice say, this is President Reagan's secretary, and he would like to have a word with you. Oh, I said, you're kidding. And she said, of course not. Here he is now. And he gets on and he said, well, that was a fine story about my dog and about me with Santa Barbara. And I said, oh, I'm sorry you read it. and he said, yes, I read every word. And he said, I was furious about that, and I'm calling you to tell you that he loves Santa Barbara. He loves the ranch. He has lots of doggy friends there. And he was not happy in the White House. I said, no? He said, no, he couldn't run without a leash. He couldn't play.
So that's an interesting story, because it just shows you that Reagan was on top of just about everything that happened, and a lot of people thought he wasn't. That he was.
Oh, you bet he was.
Yeah, he was sharp. All right, Mr. Rooney, I'm going to give you the last word on this. We only have about 45 seconds left. You obviously have a great bit of affection. You're emotional. This is an emotional week for a lot of Americans. What was the one thing, meeting Reagan at 15, that he taught you that you can tell us in about 30 seconds, sir?
Well, Bill, if you had time to listen to him, you could find out that you could learn most anything you want. He was proud of everything that he did, and he loved America. And with our vote coming up very shortly, we should all remember, be you a Democrat, a Republican, no matter what, remember, be a good American first.
All right. Ms. Day, Mr. Rooney, we appreciate you both coming on and sharing those stories with us. And we'll be right back with the testimony today in California of Laci Peterson's mother. And then your letters about Ronald Reagan and the factor. There is some controversy, if you can believe it, upcoming.
This program is brought to you by